when I look at this whole world of what we call user adoption, it's kind of, to myself, it's kind of broken down into three parts. It's really about how do we go out and do a discovery, understand requirements, how do we build this thing, and then how do we deploy it so we get that user adoption from it. So let's talk a little bit about sort of this working remote and, what are some of the tools that we've used? AJ, let's start with you.
You're creating something that's repeatable. As we move into the process of the implementation as well, that's where a tool like ClickLearn really comes into play, because we've got a similar situation. Our customers, especially in the SMB side, have a limited budget, but they still expect a premium experience. They're investing in a premium product like Dynamics 365 Business Central. How do we take what's covered in a single training session and then make it accessible for repeat use? The traditional tool was video, and that was great, and it still is. But scrubbing through a 3.5 or 4.5 hour video to find a process of doing drop shipment, it's hard, because maybe you're talking about it for 30 seconds. So now somebody's scrubbing through a 4-hour video trying to find that 30 seconds or 5 minutes of video clip. It's a lot more convenient when we take the processes that we're creating for our customers, and no two customer deployments are the same. There's multiple ways to drop ship, multiple ways to sell and purchase, and taking that specific way we do it into a tool like ClickLearn and creating a documentation which is in some ways specific and bespoke for them.
So Jim, over to you. Let's talk a little bit about, the process of discovery, build, and, adoption. And how do you use a tool like ClickLearn really to work through that process with your customers?
Yeah, I think one of the key things for us before the pandemic, we were always on site. It's kind of like what AJ was talking. We could observe, right? And so now the observation component went away immediately. So a couple of things we had to do is, one, where our workshops may be 5-6 hours at a time, we had to make a strategic change to say a workshop can be no more than an hour long, period, end of story. And in that hour, we got to get right to the point. And what we did as a company is we practiced last April before we went into clients and really understood what's the role that our team was going to play. So we had a panel like we had now with 5 people in a workshop. There was a commentator, there was a scribe, there was someone that was observing what was going on, and there's someone that's also mimicking the process using ClickLearn. And so we were starting to see, and so at the end of the workshop, we already had artifacts being produced that the client can come back and say, yes, this is notionally correct, or no, it's not. And so that really made a change for us, but I think as a company, made a change for the better, because now our workshops are shorter. The client has something to see and feel immediately, and they feel like the value they're getting, whether they're a small business or Fortune 100, they're starting to see value immediately, which is an absolute key.
Yes. David, over to you. From a perspective of discovery, building a solution and delivering a solution, how has sort of ClickLearn impacted that?
So our role kind of declines and our customer role expectation increases once we get into the delivery phase. And I call it an accountability transition. And that's a very important point, because now we expect the customer, data migration, testing scripts, blah, blah. We expect them to do a lot of stuff. We also expect them to be trained. We expect them to be able to functionally test it, unit test it, and be able to do end-to-end testing in some fairly complex processes. And that's a massive challenge. And what we're using ClickLearn for now is obviously to really start thinking about how do we get not only using the task recorder, which only works if the actual process is in Dynamics 365 F&O. So we now are saying, right, here's a tool that gives us the ability to create the training artifacts, the user adoption artifacts, and make sure that we can transfer that accountability transition onto the customer.
Okay, Mark, what are you seeing from partners? How are they using ClickLearn today to deliver these remote projects?
No, I definitely see, as David and AJ and Jim are saying, right? It's a lot about actually being able to have a platform that can talk out of the systems, working across, and being able to have a system that can actually support all of the applications. We're seeing a lot from the Power Apps. We're seeing a lot from web-based applications, etc. Something customized, self-built, etc. And to be able to actually say, hey, here is one place, here is one learning portal where you can enter and access all of your document. Of course, you can divide it out to different modules. You can control it on user level, etc. But the same way to produce and create documentations across all of your platforms, and then being able to deliver it in the same content in the format that the end user wants it in, I really see as the strongest and biggest request, but also benefit for the partners that they are now able to deliver and service their clients.
Rick, I'd like to add to that real quick. You know, for us, we have clients that are scattered in different geographies, which they don't all speak English. And one of the key things that ClickLearn has enabled us is we have a massive Portuguese requirement. With ClickLearn, I just click the Portuguese button. And so what would take us months to have translation performed is now a validation to make sure that it's correct. We don't have to send it off to a translator, because when you send it off to a translator, there may be a new release of your system, which then you send it back to the translator. What ClickLearn has enabled us to do is the speed to get something back to the client.
That's the key. And when I talk to partners and end users about ClickLearn, and I ask them how much time they've saved, I get people looking at me and go, time, it's not the time, it's what I could actually create that I've never had before, right? It's what I call the magic of ClickLearn. When we put this group of panelists together, I was very excited because we all know each other through the user group community, and we're all very strong advocates of user adoption. Heidi, is there anything you're seeing from the the learning perspective that's sort of changing and is probably going to stay with us?
Yeah, before the COVID pandemic, like Neil said, most people that we worked with would prefer in-person learning. I mean, it's like you said, the gold standard. It's a really great learning experience. You can reach people, you can see when they're struggling and intervene where you need to. And obviously that is no longer possible. And we'd always recommend having some sort of online learning available. A lot of times people have a very large geographic spread of their employees, and it's not always feasible to get everybody in a room together for in-person learning. So that was always a part of most of our plans, but it was like the supplementary part, not the main part. And in the last year, I mean, there's been obviously a massive shift where now almost all of our deliveries have been online, and it's small, digestible chunks. Nobody really wants to sit there and get an 8-hour training of a functional scenario, right? Here are your tables, go for X, Y, Z. Let's look at all of the fields you have. If you can really take them through the journey based on how they're going to use the system, it's going to end better for everybody involved.
What we really focused on using ClickLearn at a customer I was with previously is making small, short videos, right? We want to say, okay, we want to do this process and it's going to take 5 steps, and we'll lay it out, and that will make a beautiful ClickLearn step-by-step and video, and it'll be great. And then if we need to show more about this process, let's create that separately, right? And I think the benefit of that is it's so much easier to say, hey guys, go in here and watch these 5 2-minute trainings, instead of saying that we need them to sit down and watch a whole hour-long video or something like that. We really enjoyed using ClickLearn. I think we had 2 dedicated people authoring content, and I say dedicated because they were dedicated to our Dynamics team, but they were also working as administrators and doing other functionality. So ClickLearn wasn't the main part of their function, but they were able to deliver in something like 6 months. We delivered 90 to 100 different trainings for our team.
I love that, Kylie. It sounds like your team has baked, updating the learning content as part of their definition of done. So, a product backlog item isn't complete until the learning material is available for our users. That's amazing.
And when you created this many videos with ClickLearn and you have to update things, what was the advantage?
Yeah. So you kind of hinted to it earlier, Rick, but ClickLearn has this really cool replay functionality. So if I create my form one way and I record the training and it's beautiful, and then someone says, hey, I need these 3 extra fields. So those fields, maybe they don't interfere with the process, but they do change the screen. And we all know how users can get very confused with this screenshot doesn't match what I'm seeing. Even if the important bits are still there, I think it can cause a lot of confusion, right? So what I could do is go into ClickLearn and just replay my training, and it would re-record and take new screenshots to update the training without me needing to do any extra work.
Mark, okay, Neil, would you like to add anything?
I love it when subject matter experts are dedicated to our project. Sometimes it's high level, very future stuff, things that we're going to be developing maybe next quarter. Other workshops are a bit more detail, things we're going to be developing in the next sprint or two. People are much more comfortable screen sharing, talking through some of the customer interactions they've had and how they've used the existing system. And then right alongs at the other end, when you've deployed your new system and your new functionality and you want to see how people are using it, you can have them either record their screen and share it with you, or you can open up a Teams meeting and ask them questions as they walk through the system, and that you can record that and then share it with your teams as well. So there are a couple of things that are easier, which is really good as well.
Okay, let's wrap it up with you. Talk a little bit about, how partners can get involved with ClickLearn, because I clearly believe every partner should be.
Oh, and I clearly believe as well, Rick. So, it's super easy to become a partner of ClickLearn. We have a free partner program that everybody can join in the Microsoft Dynamics practice. So we are always taking in partners. We always say here, we are actually here to do the heavy lifting for you. It's a referral program where we can help you through any of your leads, clients, etc. And at the same time, we train and educate you during that path if you want to, or you can simply let us handle everything.